and probably
about the white papers with regional inputs, and we start with Venezuela. So Arturo, you have the floor.
thank you so much, guys. And again, sorry if you hear me a little bit agitated. I just was running, but we managed to start exactly on time. Yes, so this is a series of slides, essentially a very heterogeneous compendium of sources from people, Venezuelans, but around the world, and our colleagues that work with us in several projects um, in this regime. So again, there are several inputs here. We have Reina, Gladys, Jose, and myself. And I'm mainly the person who is talking more than anything else. So of course, I don't want to go into too many details. Fortunately and unfortunately, the slides or the overall slide didn't change too much between the first time and this second time that we have the opportunity to speak with you guys. And I will say why the two reasons, no? But essentially, putting aside the difficulties that the science and general education that the research have been continuous in Venezuela, we still have been collaborating essentially with people that is outside the country and build and keep building community and keep building collaborations at different levels, at different scales also. Many of us came from the higher energy physics. Some of us already moved away to another expertise or another fields, but in the same time, we still keep working together. Most of the project that we do, obviously, but you will see it focuses in access to education, capacity building, these kind of things, tools and expertise that we have been learning during these years and that we know that can be useful for other people to pursue a scientific career, but not only, no? But the idea obviously keep the relevance in what the education of our students, but also the improvements of those that are already professional, no? And we will speak a little bit about it. So again, I will essentially touch a couple of emblematic institutions or infrastructure that are in the country that essentially, at least for what concern to us today in terms of the physics and basic research, and how we still try to collaborate, to help, or to interact with the people that is there. So again, most of the people that have been input of this presentation and in general of the efforts come from fundamental or theoretical physics, but many of us also came from for high energy physics programs. So we had the opportunity, as many of you maybe also, to interact with people here in Europe from where I am talking to you right now, but also between Latin America borders, and have been inside very large collaboration for several years. So I have been in this scenario where people scattered around the world, interact with the people that is there, interact with the students, keep working with the students, and essentially some of these students, at least when we made this, starting this effort 4 or 5 years ago, are now researchers that have been continuing and helping, facilitating, and so that's part of the good news, let's say, on in terms of the capacity building. So in terms of what I was telling you on the relevant research facilities, so we have some institutions here. One is more historical, and so I will start with that one so we can pass to the others that are more active now. Is the Centro Nacional de Cálculo Científico. That was one of the first of the computing centers in the continent, at least South America. And even when this institute, or let's say this particular infrastructure, is not there anymore, and it was one of the first bridges to interact with what it means to do high performance computing, what it means to do scientific computing with other peoples around the world. So allow us, many people, but I even myself had the opportunity to have some training in terms of what means using the grid at that time. That was quite emblematic effort that now is quite standard, at least in high energy physics here at CERN and other places. So this was a kind of, again, in terms of what we are talking always of capacity building, moving more into in the opposite direction. We had the Venezuelan Institute for Scientific Research, or in Spanish for IBIT, that this is still an institution there that's essentially how to say it, sorry, put together several fields of science, not only physics, but there are several institutions quite emblematic also in terms of studying application of the science in terms of the medicine, physics, medical physics in terms of chemistry instead of, as you know, Venezuela have been historically a place that have been living of the oil resources, and how to make add value to these resources have been part of the effort made in this institute. And again, even with the different changes and funding situation, migration of the researchers, and the coming and for example, in terms of the pandemic, that there was quite emblematic on the lack of mobility of the student, it still is a place that keep generating some research, keep generating knowledge, and is still a place that many people that is studying there would like to continue their advanced studies or the training and their thesis, for example. And one of the institutes that also, in terms of infrastructure, we also have this Centro de Investigaciones de Astronomía, that is essentially the center that hosts also observatory in Llano del Hato, that is in Mérida, where I made my studies in the University of Los Andes. So this place that is, and I will go a little bit more deeper into that, because it's a particular case where the institute have been, and especially also the infrastructure, as you see in the picture, there are 4 cupolas, domes, that contain different optical telescope, mainly for training, but also for research. So the CIDA as institution and the CIDA as the scientific facility, and also, once again, education facility, have been getting renewed in terms of maintenance. So this is quite a good news. I was in Venezuela, in fact, a couple of months ago, and I had the opportunity to interact with the people who manage the institute. And even when the research have been, I would not say put it the second, is right now the main focus, at least for the people who is there, is to bring back education at all the levels, so you can, again, have things as simple, but at the same time as complex, to take primary students to go to the observatory, understand how to optical telescope works, all the way to do measurements of scientific measurements of by the postdocs, by the researchers that are in the CIDA right now. So it's a very ambitious program. Again, they have been efforts to keep the instrumentation useful, once again, for the research, but also to spread back this as an outreach, as a place to engage as many people as possible in cosmology and astronomy. That is, as we all know, at least people are here, is one of these kind of first thing as a physicist that you feel in love, because it's quite nice to know, and hopefully with the idea of that these people will engage in some kind of STEAM studies later. So again, in terms of the training, and once again coming back to the initiative of the different Venezuelans, and obviously with the strong effort together with you guys, with people from many other places around the world, we have had the opportunity to work in programs like Helen, that is quite historical now, but I bring it back because this has been one of these collaboration between Latin America and Europe, where many of us had the opportunity to come to these facilities research. I was one of the Helen's guys, and you still find many of these people around the world doing collaboration, keeping engaged into what it is, training into what it is, especially now that we can do all these things online, this kind of distributed school distributing events, essentially. So And you will know for sure the status of Lagos, that once again, Venezuela is part, at least some of the university was part of this project. Luis Núñez will have a particular paper, if I understood well, on Lago during this event. So we will know more about their status. So again, in terms of the capacity, maybe the numbers are a little bit off, but I am sure that because we are missing people here, but essentially, once again, most of the community, at least the more senior, have been in terms of theoretical physics. So we have people that have been working since ever on this and keep helping us, like, for example, Ana Maria Font, that is one of our flag researchers on several fronts, but not only her. But again, more and more, we have been growing these PhD students, these postdocs that are now researchers in experimental collider physics. Again, the most emblematic, obviously, will be always, well, not always, but at least until now, LIC. But in other experiments where these people have been trained and now move to do other research, that now are professors in universities worldwide and keep helping us to create these programs. And again, I will mention a little bit more about that. So in terms of the trainings, again, one of the key things that we decided to engage and essentially focus our efforts and skills, and also bring more people as is in creating educational programs, capacity building programs, as I want to call it. So many of us also work at the ICTP or with the ICTP project, and you know very well this kind of program. One is the Physics Without Frontier that keep on going, and we essentially, together again with many people in the community, brought Physics Without Frontier to several places in Latin America, and we run many programs in terms of when it was the opportunity to go in person, and also the freedom for many of us to go there and different places. And we understood that was this possibility to engage in a bigger network and not only do it once or twice, but maybe create something that will be more sustainable, will be into the university or engage in the universities that already was receiving us when we were coming there to present the different workshops. And this is, for example, one of the most successful projects that we have so far have been La Conga. When we presented these slides a few years ago, and here with you guys, La Conga was an initiative, was a proposal for the European Union. I may miss the exact names, but maybe Horizon Plus programs that was essentially looking to modernize education in terms of how we do this in a qualitative way. So we have professors that teach fundamental physics or higher physics in Colombia and Venezuela, but we also have experts in chaos, in systems, in complex systems in Ecuador, here in Europe, and put this together in the sense that we will be able to create these mini programs to enhance master degrees programs that was already existing. So the idea was not to create too much something from scratch, but engage with the people that is already in the university, that already see what we were doing, and attach to the programs. As you can imagine, that's make not trivial, but much easier bureaucracy and engage with the authorities. So this was, and Reina, in this case, will have a fantastic presentation of what the Conga have been able to do in all this program also. So I will not go into the details. But again, this all came from different programs. So again, we started with Cevale, that is just a very quick slide here. You see one of the years. Essentially, we create some courses. We also engage with Physics Without Frontier, with the ICTP at that time. We still do it, but at that time I was part of the personnel in that institution, so it was much easier. And we brought this mixing of online classes together with the annual visit that allows us to create this kind of excitement into the students, especially people who was starting the career, to continue going. So we had students that have been from year one of their career all the way now to the PhD, working with us or being mentored by some of us, and that's quite nice to see happening. So again, these have been historical. In fact, I missed one because just before the pandemic started in 2019, 2020, we also visited Mexico, Dominican Republic, and obviously always Venezuela and Colombia have been part of our visits. So that was the program that allows us to engage with the students. Again, we from here, or obviously in collaboration with people that was on the ground in each of these countries, we prepared workshops, and because they were engaging more and more universities, but we repeated some places essentially because we still we have the collaboration there. So we saw the engagement of the students that came the first time and continue coming, and obviously we needed to be aware of that and bring in something that will be new for the people who will the second time, but at the same time, obviously give you value to those that were just there for the first time. So have been quite interesting. Once we started to, the pandemic came, I don't think I need to remind you what means in terms of mobility, but it helped us to put an expertise and develop even more expertise on something that we were doing since years. As I mentioned before, we were doing Cebales since 2014, and these were online courses. And I know that this is, again, nothing new for you even before the pandemic started. But again, we took all this expertise, we bring this collaboration completely online, and we keep creating events like, for example, this physics school with Physics with a Frontier program at ICTP in 2022, where what I am bringing to you on a couple of screenshots here on the left. You can see in Creative Commons YouTube channel, Creative Commons Venezuela chapter YouTube channel, where we have all the different classes. So we're 2 weeks where we made a call. So that means creating social media, creating engagement for weeks, getting together the program and the people, invite the different instructor, professors that will like to engage with us. At the same time, this was, if I remember, we're kind of 2 week school where we even found funding for the students in terms of students that they could apply and make their case why they would need to have, for example, a few €50 or $50 at that time in helps in terms of getting better access to the internet, so they could connect to the school and engage in the school, to even get some help to have somebody who take care, for example, babysitting, if that was the money can be used for this kind of again, ways to maximize the amount of people, the diversity of people that could be there in the school. And we managed to call the attention not only again our friends at that point, and still our friend Physics with a Frontier, but also some other institutions and other ONGs that tend to help this kind of proposal. So we get better and better. And on the right, you see, beside the different institutions that participate and help on this, one of the things that we have been using a lot is Discord as the platform to bring these events online. Have been quite useful. Sorry, I don't know if somebody wants to speak. I have somebody with open microphone, but I don't know if it's on purpose.
It's okay. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry. So what I wanted to say is like, it sounds trivial, but we realized that this kind of, we have at that time, and sorry, this is quite small, but if you see my point, it is 80 people that came into this server, as we say, as is called. And again, we have technical support, organizers, instructors, and the different classes, complex system, data, high energy physics, solid states, etc. So we started to learn how to do these kind of events completely online, but still, again, trying to give you the complete experience. And it was quite successful, not only because we now started to create a community that we can come back, a channel of communication, we can bring more stories, more events, together one of the branches, for example, of La Conga. And once again, I encourage you to come to the presentation of Reina that will be quite enlightful on this. But one of the events in parallel that we proposed to the European Union together with the master courses was to create a hackathon. Hackathon essentially bring it, obviously not for the first time, but one of these events that we engaged, or we tried to call all university students in the region. So the idea was to call as many people as possible. Again, that involves a lot of another expertise in terms of communications, in terms of managing all these different communication channels. So we are now in the third, or we just finished, in fact, 1 month ago, a little bit more, the third edition of La Conga Hackathon. It's called COAFINA. And since 2022, 23, and now 24, we have been calling the different students. So essentially, usually we have 100 something applicants for the hackathon. At the end of the hackathon, that if you have been participating in one of those, at least has seen one, it's quite a very high energy event, in the sense that we have a weekend, Friday to at the end of the evening, let's say, or Friday to the night or Sunday, to create a solution for a particular challenge that people propose. So in this case, was a very good idea because challenges come from external. So again, as La Conga, us presented a couple of ideas of what we can do with open data, with open access resources, with open software. And obviously the solution that they propose has to be, by definition, open source as well. But it gives you the excuse to also call industry partners and people outside the academia or inside academia, but outside of our circle, to propose ideas. So we have been very, very successful, and so very happy to have this event in terms of coming from, for example, in my case, I work now in a company that creates software for another AI companies, and we brought prizes in metallic and also in challenge to the hackathon. So now we are able to self-sustain, because even when the Conga now is ending, but a new project is emerging, and I just will mention today, but again, it's part of the La Conga presentation. The COAFINA hackathon is already kind of self-sustained event, where every year we have been having 120 applicants at the end of the hackathon, again, because of the intensity of the hackathon, usually 60 to 70 finishing, but we always have solution for everything. We have been giving thousands of US dollars in prizes, and also with this experience that we have in the school in terms of helping the student, we also give some help to people who make their case in terms of how some help will will improve accessibility to internet, or maybe have some persons who take care of somebody that while they are engaged in the event, and that have been quite a successful experience. And again, so just to mention, and I am almost done, in the sense that the hackathon now, we have also this Discord channel that have 262 people. Obviously, we cannot infer that everybody's there every day, but it's already a channel of people that were in one of the events, that when we have a school, we mention there. When we have the hackathon, we mention between the two. And we can see from the applicants that many of these people is coming back not only as a hacker, but sometimes even as challengers, people who experienced the hackathon the first, second time, and this last time they say, okay, I now will propose an idea. And that has been quite also interesting to see. So again, one of the slides is in terms of La Conga, the project. This is why I changed the slide, because the project was successfully executed in different countries, different universities, in this distributed platform that where it's not only, let's say, classes like we are doing right now, but also instrumentation was both built together with some companies and distributed to different laboratories in this, what you can see here in the map. Also, again, with the close collaboration of the university here in Europe. And so they will have now El Bongo, because I just started to see the theme here in terms of la conga, now el bongo. And again, this is the next version or an extension. Maybe I'm using the wrong words and they will criticize me later, but essentially what it means is taking la conga and enhancing in terms of not only the amount of institutions that they wanted to embrace, so now there are more different countries, more pointing to the to Central America, sorry, and also in another fields like space weather, sorry, astronomy, and obviously was as energy physics and complex system. So as you can see, and sorry for the extra time, what I wanted to show you is a story where many things unfortunately didn't change too much, what we can say inside, but also on the focuses that those that have been working on this, putting in things that we know how to do, and if we try to learn. We call people from other expertise in terms of communication to enhance what we are doing in terms of capacity building, and many of these students that in 2019, when we met the first time, are now people who are instructors or keep doing their own projects thanks to these initial seeds that we put there. And thank you very much for your attention, guys.
Thank you, Arturo, for this nice overview. Are there any questions or comments in the room or online? So I have the question myself. These road shows that you were talking about for the Physics Without Borders, are they in-person visits to those countries?
Yes, at that time, yes. We used to have been, I mean, again, the project changed every year, but one of the best years, at least for the visits, we were like 7 people, so 5 people. So we were able to, 2 of those in Colombia and Ecuador, for example, and me, Venezuela, and another one, to try to replicate master classes of other things that we do at CERN, but also created our own. This is, by the way, continue be doing by Physics Without Frontiers. I was just checking their social media, and they keep doing this round trip. Obviously, as you know, ICTP try to target especially the south of the world, but in Latin America, we were the people who bring in this.
Okay, very good.
Thanks again, guys. Sorry.
All right, thank you, Glenn. Time to move to the next talk, Edgar, who is here. So we need some technical help.
Oh, okay, it's coming.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Thanks to the organizers for giving us the opportunity to make this presentation. I'm gonna give you an update on the contributions of the Ecuadorian community to the HECAP areas. And this will involve talking about students and some activities that we have done. And of course, mentioning the challenges and some of the objectives that we have in the longer term and some conclusions. So they went too far. This thing is sensitive.
Whoa.
All right. So yeah, Ecuador is a small country in South America in terms of size, but not so much in terms of population. We are comparable to other countries, I believe. But we are a rather newcomer in the area of fundamental physics. Our funding agency is CNRS, which has been instrumental in some of the developments in our community. We are a rather small group in HECAP, we grew fast like 10 years ago, but nowadays it's harder to keep going at that rate. And I'm going to comment on some experimental efforts, but there is also people doing theoretical work, and I think there is another talk about that from another institute. Okay, so this is the landscape of the institutions that are in Ecuador. Essentially, all of them are in the Sierra, meaning in the Andes. There are none yet in the coast, which are involved in this kind of experiments, large-scale experiments. Currently, we have 6 institutes participating, and the main projects are CMS, LAGO, and recently CTA, which I'm going to comment about. I'm very happy about that. We are about 12,000 people doing this kind of physics, and a significant number of students nowadays. And we finally started a few years ago successfully our first graduate program at USFQ. So the expansion is challenging due to certain problems that I'm going to comment later. So let me talk about CMS. We have 2 institutes in Ecuador involved in CMS officially since 2016, really, the end of 2015. And there is one group leader in each institute, like a permanent faculty professor. And we have also one engineer in the faculty who contributes to the experiment. We usually work with around 4 undergrad students at a time. And we're very happy, as I mentioned before, that for the first time I'm supervising a master's student. So we have been involved in physics analysis. We have done top physics, Higgs physics. We have been involved in exotic searches as well. But what I'd like to describe next is mostly our service work, because this is the specifically the things that we need to comment about. And also, I'll tell you about our involvement in the upgrade work towards the high luminosity LHC. And of course, I need to mention that the students have been actively participating in the CERN summer program and also the Open Lab program. Okay, so let me comment that Ecuador is involved heavily in with the Braille subsystem. This is the CMS subsystem that measures essentially the luminosity, and it's in charge of safety concerning the beam backgrounds. And so for us, it's very important because it is important for our funding agency to enhance the engineering aspects of our collaboration. So before the pandemics, we planned to send some engineers to CERN, and then it coincided with the pandemic, so they had to be there by that time. So these guys are really heroes. You can see them there in the pictures. We placed 2 engineers for a couple of years, and they work on this, on preparing CMS, specifically the Braille subsystem for the startup for Run 3. And we had also an additional engineer who was working with the physics performance and dataset group. And actually, this engineer stayed there more than he was supposed to. He was so good, and it was hard to replace him. So he just recently got released. And yeah, we're very proud about his work. So we have been contributing on that aspect. And the other thing that I'd like to mention as an update is that we try to make some kind of hardware contribution, because that would be important for our funding agency. But since we are limited, again, like many other groups, by funding, then we got engaged into developing software specifically for data acquisition for the subsystem. This is kind of like a different type of software, which its knowledge is limited actually in the collaboration. So we're very happy that we're becoming experts on this thing. Hopefully that will be a benefit for the experiment. All right, so we have also cooperated with, participated in operations. So every time we go to CERN, we take a phone and we are on-call experts, so-called on-call experts to get support. And we are also trying to test these remote drill ships. And I'm showing this picture here because we have a new setup, a little laboratory where we pretend to set up an arrangement of monitors so we can contribute to the drill operations from Ecuador. Okay, our groups have been involved also in computing and open data. Actually, even before joining CMS formally, we had an engineer contributing at Fermilab, taking care of the computing grid and giving support for operations. And we took a few years ago the coordination of the data and preservation group at CMS. And so we were in charge of developing these tools for open access and reproducibility and using these scalable technologies. We also put a lot of effort into putting together material for workshops and training. So people external to the CMS collaboration have tools in order to use our open data. And this led us, this also gave us the opportunity to train some undergraduate students in particular outside the collaboration, which sometimes it has some benefits. Okay, so that's about CMS. Now, Ecuador is also involved in LAGO, which you will hear about later as a reminder. But in essence, we have 3 institutes which joined LAGO during the last decade. And as you may know, this is an array of water Cherenkov detectors, which is a kind of a spin-off from Piaget experiment. But the idea is to put this series of experiments of detectors at high altitudes, so you can do some GRB physics initially, but actually have to spawn new areas of research. And since we are getting more master's students now, we are taking this a little bit more serious, also because our issues, some of the issues that we had over the years with hardware specifically have been are being solved with the help of efforts like La Conga. So I'd like to thank those guys for assisting us. Okay, and I'm very happy also to report that recently, I found out actually a few months ago that we are involved indirectly in CTA. And this is a great story because one of the master students who was involved in LAGO and actually participated in a project with related to that, got a position as an instructor in one of the universities in the south of Ecuador. And these guys were keen on training him, you know. And so they sent him to Madrid, to Spain, to a group which is involved in CTA. And so he got to make some work for them. So he's doing some work in, as I understand, for the LST telescope and well, you got it there, data reduction, AGN analysis, and so on. And so the publications that he's making is with the name of the Universidad de la SUAY, which is in the south of Ecuador. And so I'm very happy about this because sometimes these individual efforts open the doors for a future collaboration with these large scale infrastructures. Okay, so all in all, these experiments gave us the opportunity to engage students, and now we have a great story about our strong talent pipeline. Here's a picture of a few of these students that have been involved doing research with these different projects. And of course, they have let us enhance our research, and we believe this is sustainable in the future because there's a lot of interest in our country. We face inevitable challenges like brain drain And so we need to work about having better policies, maybe to retain some of the talent. And I'd like to mention one story in particular. As you see, many of these are very successful students. For instance, Cristina Mantilla, she started working in Lago, then switched to CMS as an undergrad, then went to CERN for the summer school, stayed at Fermilab for some internship. Then she went to a graduate program in Johns Hopkins, and now she's then to Fermilab as a Leon Leatherman postdoc, and then she's now, I believe, a professor at Virginia, if I'm not mistaken. But you know, this kind of connections open doors for us in order to increase our input in this area. I'd like to mention also these events that we have had in Ecuador. The first one you already knew from our last report. We organized the CERN Latin American School in 2015. But what is new since 2019 is that we hosted the CELA-5, the 14th version of it in 2022 in Quito, which went, I believe, very well. And I'd like to mention also a few other educational initiatives. This EPIC school, which is called the School of Programming for Scientific Research, actually was started by students who were involved in CMS and Lago, and who went abroad to engage in graduate programs. It was initiated by them, and now it has become, grown to the point that now this has components from different fields, not only from particle physics. And we are also part of La Conga, thanks to a colleague of ours in USFQ, and the future version, which is El Bongo, which we heard about from Arturo, and that is funded from the European Union. And it's already a tradition for us to participate in the CMS International Master Classes events for high school students. Okay, not everything is great. We face a lot of challenges. Cenecit, which is our funding agency, has been very important for us in boosting Ecuadorian participation in these areas. But lately, we have faced funding instability due to different aspects, but mostly political. We have had, I don't know, 3-4 elections in the last 3 years, so it's very unstable. And so I'd like to report that unfortunately a project which was in our landscape, KM3Net, is not in the plans anymore, because the faculty member that was involved with this unfortunately left the country. So we face these kind of challenges, financial ones, also academic and research constraints. For instance, there are some rules for graduate students that are not very logic, and these little by little have been changed, and we're solving them with the state of Ecuador. There are also, of course, obvious technical challenges, and as I mentioned, political and economic volatility also pays some toll. We need to work on recruitment and retention issues, and also to overcome these educational and training gaps. But taking all these in consideration, we like to propose medium and long term scientific goals, thinking about the science, thinking about the physics. So we, of course, like to keep exploring the standard model and doing particle physics. But in order to see the full picture, we believe that we need to be more serious about astroparticle physics and cosmic rays, study the properties of neutrinos, and engage in emerging fields like this multi-messenger astronomy, and also other more advanced astroparticle physics projects. In order to do this, we need to strengthen our engineering capabilities, software capabilities, and be more serious about data sharing, open science, our educational programs, and continue organizing events at the international level, and figure out ways to secure funding. And so from the practical sense, that means continue working in CMS. So we're making every effort to not only continue with the CMS experiment, but enhance our contribution. We will continue working in the LAGO project. Of course, it's a great way to train the students, and we have proven that this pays off. But all in all, I think we need to be engaged in the three areas that people talk about when they talk about fundamental physics: the energy frontier, intensity frontier, and the cosmic frontier. And I have put here some of the obvious examples that we may consider. For instance, the ILC or FCC that we heard about this morning. And but others like Dune, I don't know if we are late for it or not, but in any case, we should keep preparing to join this kind of large collaborations. I'd like to be able to keep the collaboration with CTA, and maybe if there is a chance to join a future regional experiment, I don't know if it would be Andes or some other experiment that makes that brings the Latin American community together, we are interested in that as well. And of course, we need to reinforce the participation with that has to do with computing tools, data science algorithms, and all the tools that we need for research. This is just a timeline that we developed while researching these different kinds of experiments. Most of them are taken just as an example because you have to have ambitions. And we know that this is very challenging financially for the Ecuadorian state, but we also recognize that scientific and technological benefits often spin up from the involvement with these experiments. And finally, the conclusions. So they may seem as small steps, but are significant for us. So we have made them in CMS, LAGO, and CTA. I like to recognize the help of CENESID in doing this. These HECAP projects have enhanced Ecuadorian critical mass, and this also opens the doors for better collaborative opportunities. There's a lot of excitement between students, among students, about participating in HECAP projects. And we have also expanded our involvement even in organizing events and educational activities. Also, funding, as I mentioned, remains a critical hurdle. So the very few recommendations that we have come up with is that we need to work on ways of securing funding. We need to expand these collaborations, enhance our education for hands-on physics and technology training. We need to improve access to computational resources, open science. We need to be very serious about diversity and inclusion as well. And we believe that all these strategies will solidify Ecuador's impact in the HECAP. So thanks so much for
Very much. Questions?
Second, I don't know if I know politely the question. You said there is a small community, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to speak only about LHC only. It's a small community, and I saw your the group in CMS, and I saw it's already posted in Atlas. So it's a small community and already managed to go both to CMS and Atlas.
No, we are not in Atlas.
That's not the poster?
Uh,
Maybe I made a mistake.
maybe oh, no, I see what you're saying. So yeah,
that's one.
it's just an example because this student was working with us as an undergrad in CMS and then went to Atlas, which is highlighting that he received this PhD grant in Atlas. So it means that I just wanted to show that these are great students, but we're not in Atlas.
Okay, so it's nothing, go ahead, sorry. Nothing against the colleagues in Atlas, of course.
Was it Mark?
It's just that being a small community, it might be better to focus. And I know nobody to say that, okay, this is something that I think. It might be better to focus efforts on one or two experiments,
Yeah.
not all four. Here in Brazil is impossible because it's already the four experiments, and all the four communities are already extremely well established. It is already a small community.
We were actually discussing that during lunch. And yeah, that might be or not be true for Brazil, but definitely for us, it's not a good business to split that way. And of course, this guy going to Atlas, we let him go there, but we're trying very hard to bring him back so he can work for CMS.
That's the point.
Thanks.
So I have a question. So in first slide, you mentioned some 3 or 4 universities.
Right.
How many universities are granting PhD?
We have none.
Zero.
So
Zero.
until a few years ago, we didn't have a graduate program in physics. So I consider a great success that we started. Well, there have been some efforts creating master's programs in physics before, but they have failed. And for the first time, I think we have a master's program which is going forward and actually growing.
Yeah.
So those are little differences, but I now feel that they make a lot of a difference for the work that we are doing.
Actually, I had this question similar to Thiago's sentiment. So at the end, you show quite ambitious
Right.
goals, like joining FCC or June CTA formally. Clearly, with the people you have now, this is not realistic.
Right.
But do you show these as to make the argument that you need to expand and need more funding and more people, or
That's one reason.
how do you
Yeah,
see that?
we think that we need to expand to add more people. I mean, with just one permanent researcher in each institute, I don't think we're going forward. There's no time to do more. But at some point, I think we're going to have more. And also, these experiments take a long time, right? And the earlier you get involved with them, maybe you're part of working on the designs or contributing early. I think that also makes a difference because I'm sensing that we arrived in CMS. I mean, it's great to be in CMS and be able to use the data and everything. But I'm feeling that if we had arrived earlier, we could have probably asked for even more money because engineering or hardware makes a difference. So in that sense, it is logic to me, but okay, this is probably very ambitious.
It's good to be ambitious.
Otherwise, you get stuck.
Yes.
Okay, so because the next talk was cancelled,
Yes.
we have 7 more minutes.
Yes. So we can.
Do we do a short break or?
Yeah, we break because the people online and they're waiting for the next talk, so we should keep on schedule. So let's break for 5 minutes and we'll come back.
Okay, so 5-minute
Thank
break.
you again.
Anna, please try to share. We don't see your slides yet.
Yeah, hold on. Zoom is not playing well with me today.
Does he have permission?
I think that's what it's co-host. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That's okay.
Can you see something?
We see your screen.
Yeah, let me check how to put this in full screen, right?
Yeah.
It's not yet full screen. No. Yeah. Oh, there. Now it's good. Yeah.
Okay, let me just, oh, it was somewhere. Okay,
All right. So you have 20 minutes.
okay, thank you. Okay, the Zoom is covering my slides. I hope you see my whole slides anyway.
We can see your whole slide. Yes.
Thank you. So So I'm talking on behalf of the Argentinian groups. I'm Fernando Monticelli on behalf of La Plata and Buenos Aires group. And I'm going to present our update on the contributions on the for the Latin American Strategy Forum for the LASF4RI. So there are a few updates with respect to what we presented last time. So first, let me just show or share a screenshot of the first page of the new white paper we sent, and you can find in the link that is provided by the conference. So let me share with you, the status for this. So just a reminder, all of this is in the scope of the high luminosity LHC upgrade. And also within the LHC, right? But it's both for the current LHC and the high luminosity LHC upgrade. So as you may know, or may you remember, there was a long shutdown during 2019 and 2022, which was called the long shutdown 2, which was to get ready the experiments and the accelerator for the run 3, in which the center of mass energy was rising from 13 to 13.6 TeV, and the luminosity was higher than in the previous runs. So that upgrade was called the phase 1 upgrade, and the run 3 is ongoing since 2022. So the idea is that the LHC will finalize its physics program by 2026 in principle, and there will be another shutdown, which will make an upgrade for the high luminosity LHC, which will replace the current LHC in the same tunnel, along with the upgrade of the experiments. And this new accelerator will go into start collisions by 2029 in principle, which allow the experiments, in principle Atlas, in which the scope our activities are, will collect an integrated luminosity of about between 3,000 and 4,000 inverse femtobars. This will be, of course, in the length of the full physics program, which is expected to be around 10 years. And then this is in comparison to the about 300 inverse femtobars we're going to collect with the LHC. So it's 1 order of magnitude more data. Okay, great. So this is nice. You have here a schedule of the timeline, the last updated timelines we have for the expected schedules for the long shutdowns and starting for the next runs and so on. But let me tell you or share with you why we want, as a high energy community, to upgrade the LHC. The idea of the high luminosity LHC is that it will be like what we call a Higgs factory. So in this table, you see the different facilities, and then you see, well, different characteristics. Here, LHC has the nominal 14 TeV we never reached. But in any case, what you can see is the amount of expected integrated luminosity and the amount of expected produced Higgs bosons in the accelerator. So you see, we will go from 17 million, roughly, up to 170 million Higgs produced in the same amount of time by the high luminosity LHC. And why that's good? Because, well, it will allow us, have enough statistics so we can study properties of the Higgs that we can't access with the current LHC data. For example, the Higgs self-couplings, for example, and everything that is related to double Higgs production. So, for example, we can measure not just the couplings, but also, make searches on deviations of standard model or precision measurements and so on. We also be able to study Higgs rare decays allowed by the standard model, Higgs to James high plus gamma and Higgs to mu mu, for example, and also direct searches for things beyond standard model, thanks to the statistics like direct S-top or S-tau production, and also, well, interactions with new physics, new particles like the Z prime, for example, hypothetical Z prime. So, well, that's good. So we will have a better accelerator with higher luminosity, great. But that comes with a price, which means more pileup. So the things that if we are going to have higher instantaneous luminosity means, busier events. And then which means that the detectors needs to be, upgraded so to cope with this. For example, many things of Atlas will be replaced, like the full inner detector, the whole subdetector will be changed by something new, because we need to cope with higher luminosity, higher radiation, and things like that. So the idea of the replacement of the parts of the detectors is to keep the same performance we have, in run 2 or run 3 with LHC, but under the condition of the high luminosity LHC, which is much harder. So, the thing is, the upgrade is a task force being led by physicists and collaboration with engineers, and then which means that, also there's an interaction between the design, the industry, and components and detector, which is really, is very rich, very fruitful, and allows us to make a design that we can build actually in the coming years. So some of the requirements, let's say, we need for Atlas in particular, where you can see here a picture of a simulated event under the conditions of high luminosity LHC, which is a very busy event. So you can track, for example, here, this is a Z2 mu mu. And then you see that, the red tracks are the mu's that comes from the Z, but there, everything is covered by thousands of tracks which are drawn there in green. We need to be able to identify those red ones. That's a really challenging thing. So part of the requirements, as I said, is to keep the same performance. We need to mitigate the high rate because of the pileup. We want to keep the requirement of the particles we identify as low as possible, at least as low as current requirements in the LHC. So which means the triggers that fire those events needs to be as low as possible. So that's why, because otherwise we will lose all the gain we have with the high luminosity LHC. And then if we don't do that, we lose that physics. And we keep that physics, we will be able to do precise measurements, have a higher statistics, and so on. Another requirement is to try to minimize what we call the service non-active detectors, let's say, supports and stuff. So we can gain in active, let's say, detectors in Atlas. That's part of the design. So in the next slide. So I'm not going into the details, but there is a detailed study that is published in the TDR, which is called Atlas TDR 029, about why we need to make the Atlas upgrade and why we need to update the trigger system. And the specific list of physics motivations of how we are going to lose a lot of physics, even with a better accelerator, if we don't upgrade the trigger system. Because the trigger system is the first step of acquiring the data. If we don't fire an event with the trigger, we lost it forever. So it's key we have a trigger system that is, up to the task of, take the data and face the harsh conditions of the high luminosity LHC. Anyway, and there's one reason for each of these. So what is this TDAC phase 2 upgrade, which I'm talking about because we are involved in it in Argentinian high energy physics communities. So the idea is that is to bring, the current trigger system is like built in 2 blocks, let's say, a hardware implemented one and a software implemented one. So part of the challenge for the high luminosity LHC is to bring parts of the computation power we are doing now in the software part, let's say in the rack of computers, and bring it to the hardware level, which is faster, but it's more challenging to build. So the idea is that we are going to inherit what today we have as phase 1 upgrade part of the trigger, which was improved with respect to the previous run, and then include a new piece, which is very special, which is called the global trigger, which is in the scope we are working on the upgrade, which will do some, algorithmic analysis in real time in hardware, similar to what we do actually on software. So it's very, very challenging, but it's the only way we can cope with the harsh conditions of a high luminosity LHC in the phase 2 trigger. So in addition to this, I mentioned also briefly that the detector is going to be updated, but in order to have this trigger working this way, some of the electronics needs to also be updated so it can deliver signals as fast as needed for the global trigger to be able to do the task, right? So it's going to be fast, but it needs to be fed very fast by electronics from the different subdetectors, and those need to be updated to do so. So let me just speak a bit about what this global trigger is about. So it's basically a system, you know, is here in the blue box in here, which is made up of different pieces. The piece that is a set of muxes, which is a time multiplexer set of system, or it's a set of time multiplexer pieces. Then it has a JEP thing, which is, you know, which JEP stands for Global Event Processor. And this is, let's say, the core of the global trigger system in which the algorithms are executed in hardware. And then it has a last piece, which is called the GCTPI, which is basically a demultiplexer, which gives the, let's say, the signal to the following steps in the trigger and data acquisition stream, let's say. I'm not going into the details. But the fun thing of the design is that every different piece of the global trigger is going to be built, or actually is being built, it has been designed as a single same piece of board, same hardware, which will, depending on the firmware, play a different role. So a MUX board is exactly identical to a JEP board, and is basically just different FPGAs, it's the same FPGAs, but programmed differently. That allows us to make a robust, you know, hardware and scalable, and I can talk hours about the global, but that's not the spirit. So here you have a picture of the board that's going to be the last prototype we have, which is the GCM B3 board, which is using the latest and more powerful Xilinx AMD FPGAs, which is the VP11802. And it also has an ARM processor, you know, a microprocessor to use to run software that runs a Linux here. This is, and the top is our engineer in the facilities of CERN, one of the many training sessions he was there. So, okay, so then how this is connected to us? Well, we actually, for the first time in an experiment of this magnitude, we are involved in hardware building. And this is really important for us as a community and for our industry. So the idea is that, as I mentioned, the global trigger is a very complex system, which is implemented in hardware. And then the thing is that, well, I just mentioned this is implemented the same board hardware with different firmwares. So we signed an MOU in 2019 in which we are responsible of contributing the design and build of 23% of the modules that's going to be running the global trigger. So this is really, really important. This not only includes the boards itself, but also tests and deployment in Atlas once we start with the high luminosity LHC. So this is a very important commitment. Also, we are committed to do firmware and software, you know, where Buenos Aires and La Plata, we're sharing different aspects of the collaboration. And also, this is also very nice and kind of new, is that we are 100% in charge of building, designing, and commissioning the fiber management for the global trigger system. We are actually working on that already, which I'm going to say briefly in the next few slides. But this is full on our shoulders, and we need to provide a working fiber management system. This is a screenshot of the MOU, which was signed in 2019, back then when we had a science ministry that was somehow, you know, let's say, destroyed by a chainsaw. But in principle, the MOU, well, of course, is valid, and we still committed to do this work for the Atlas upgrade. One important aspect we are working on is one of the algorithms that are going to run in the global trigger is also under our, let's say, responsibility, which is the electron and photon identification. So I'm not going into many details, but the idea is that there's a region of the detector, there's a layer of the calorimeter that has fine granularity in eta, so it allows us to identify photons or electrons with respect to pi zeros. So pi zero will decay into very close by photons, and thanks to this fine granularity piece of small part of the detector, we can distinguish between, we can, let's say, identify pi zeros and reject them and say, well, okay, this is not our signal. The rest of the detector does not have this fine granularity, but we don't need, we only need that little part. So our engineer, in collaboration with other institutes, of course, but he developed a first version of this algorithm that is running in FPGA, actually. So it's computing this variable, which is called a ratio, which is the ratio of the sum, the rest of the sum of, you know, this energy, this maximum, local maximum energies. And then you can see here the distribution, this shower shape allows us to distinguish between electron photons, which is in gray here, and pi zeros, which is in this white one thing. So this is very powerful. That is for the first time being computed online on hardware, and this will allow us to run, you know, to have a trigger with the performance and the requirements we have. So this is a very important work, and this is ongoing, and we already have a prototype working for this, which means that we are proceeding with it in time. So related to facilities, we have a lab in La Plata, which is, we call it LAE, for Laboratorio de Altas Energías, in which, well, it's not fully equipped yet, but we have plenty, a lot of, let's say, nice toys already, which allows us to fulfill our collaboration with the rest of the community for our task. So we have, for example, an ATCL shelf, which is going to be used to host the boards for the global. We have FPGA kits. We have, you know, many things. In addition to some normal lab stuff, we also have, we just bought recently with some funding we got, you know, many things related to fiber management, things that allows us to build, you know, a prototype of the fiber management kind of soon. We are hoping we can have something working, you know, in small scale for the end of the year. We don't know, we hope. We actually want to also thank Xilinx and AMD, because they donated a development kit featuring the FPGA we are going to use in global. That is actually just arrived to customs, and we are waiting it to get released and just arrive to the lab. So this is nice. And also that we just acquired one of the GCMB3 prototype boards. So the ones that we are going to use in the global system, that our engineer was well, part of the working with it. And he will participate in one of the main tests of this first set of boards soon, hopefully in February 2025, when there's some little issues with some providers for some parts of the board that needs to be solved out. Anyway, so after that, we will have in La Plata one of these boards that allows us to, you know, do the commissioning and actual tests of the algorithms in-house. About the know-how, well, thanks to this collaboration, we have our engineer, which has been trained at CERN at BNL. He's also in charge on hardware and firmware implementation of the algorithm I mentioned, and also some other parts of the firmware and FPGA. And well, this skills allows us, you know, to have a facility to develop this kind of things, not just for high energy physics, which is, you know, let's say the main topic, but also for other industries like, I don't know, maybe satellites or, you know, any other things. So I can't see the last part of my slide because it's covered by the Zoom, but that's the idea. That's the implications of this know-how for also managing to the industry. And I want to, before finalize, thanks especially this community, because thanks for this community, we got fundings to improve our collaboration with our colleagues from Bahia and Rio. It's because they are in charge of building this algorithm, which is called Ringer, which I'm not going to talk about, which basically they describe the energy deposited in the calorimeter as a set of square rings, and they develop a neural network, you know, to distinguish electron photons from background. A version of this algorithm is already running on the software trigger today, but the challenge is to bring this to the global trigger. So our Rio and Bahia colleagues have a prototype of this, and then thanks to the funding of LLA HECAP, we managed to bring our engineer to Federal University of Bahia in May to help them, you know, implement this algorithm into the repository. And then we have scheduled and already agreed visit from our Bahia colleague engineer to visit La Plata in October to keep contributing on this. So this is has an impact on the Atlas contribution to the phase 2 already. So we are really thankful for that. And that's all from the Argentinian side. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much for this nice overview of the very important work that you are doing. Are there any questions? Maybe online? So I was wondering, we know that in Argentina, the financial situation may not be so easy. I was wondering whether funding is any problem for the hardware contributions that you have to do to buy these modules, or?
That's a really, 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 really very good comment. So yes, so the funding is in a terrible state, right? So in principle, yeah, I'm not going to talk about the funding because you know it. So it's really terrible. It's dangerous. So the thing is that in principle we have an agreement signed by the government, okay, previous one, but it's the Argentinian state, in which we are going to deliver this kind of stuff in kind, right? So once the final design of the boards is provided, we will call the local industry, right, to build these boards and do that thing. So we believe that aspect is might be liked by current authorities. So, and also the production of the fiber management is going to be also everything in-house. So we need funding for that, but we hope that some non-crazy mind will figure that we actually need that money for good.
If
And
I
then,
if I can comment, maybe.
sorry, yes, thanks. Sorry for not being so polite. Yeah, go ahead, Tere.
No, that's fine. What you said is exactly the situation in Argentina. Of course, we don't have anything for granted, but well, you know, Martin, things here never were really easy. So somehow we are used to fight to get the funds we need for participating in Atlas, for now contributing with this hardware and trying to fulfill the commitments. So you know, we think we have the expertise, we have the people, and many people already knows. They know what we are doing, and some of the people in charge in CONICET, for instance, the president of CONICET and some other people in high positions, they recognize the importance of all these contributions and importance of what we are doing in collaborating with an experiment like Atlas at CERN. So we are confident that we will be able to fulfill the commitment despite the terrible situation. I'm sorry for my voice, but I'm sick. That's why. But okay.
Yeah, thanks, Tere. Yeah, sorry for making you talk here and correct me. Thanks. So yeah, also just to follow up on that comment, actually, yes, we are counting on the fundings to show up. Actually, in a smaller scale, some funding issues we had with the institutes were solved, you know, recently, and we got funding for the institutes to keep working. So we are counting on the authorities, even though what they say to put the money. And yeah, and then we have well, Tere already mentioned, we have explicit support from the president of CONICET, so people who is in, yeah, we know they know this is important. We're counting on this money.
All right, makes sense. Thank you very much, and good luck.
Thank you.
So now we go to Brazil. No?
Yeah, let me try to stop sharing here, which might be challenging here. Let me, yeah, stop share.
So you also have 20 minutes.
Okay, no, I'll be quick.
Okay, so first of all, let me thank the organizers for the opportunity. This was actually a last-minute white paper. I was very much motivated by Rogério doing ICHAP. And so to give it the credit to people, that's exactly why we have these names. This white paper was actually mostly organized by Gustavo, who put together from a text that we wrote for the 50th conference of National Conference of Science and Technology. So these people worked on this text. So and Gustavo made the final white paper for us. So what I'm going to talk about is this National Institute for Science and Technology called CERN-Brasil. For people that are not from Brazil, this National Institutes for Science and Technology is a program from CNPq, our national funding agency. So it's Institutos Nacionais de Ciência e Tecnologia, INCT, Portuguese. And these institutes are not real institutes with a building, staff, and everything. It's more like a network. It has a host institution that in our case is CBPF. That's very convenient because it's an institute attached directly to the Ministry of Science and Technology. And so the idea is really to form this network of people, institutions that are that have common goals, are related to research. And then they have a call in 2022. And then we decide to apply. Basically, the initiative was from Inácio Beliaga, who is the coordinator of the NCT, our NCT. He's a researcher working at LHCb in CBPF. He's from CBPF. And then we start discussing the idea. We put together the project. One important point is that we were able to put together this, I always emphasize that, we were able to put together this project very quickly because usually in Brazil things are, they make the call and the deadline is really a few weeks later. But we were able to do that because we had performed a lot of exercise in this direction within HENAFI, that is our national network for high energy physics. So since 2018, we are having, or even earlier, we are having several workshops where we discuss in a national level possible synergies, possible common interests. And then when this call came in 2022, we were very well prepared to put together this proposal. And it was very well evaluated. So I think we did a good job. And then it was approved in December 2022, but the first funds came on June 2023. So that's more or less when we consider the starting of this institute. And we had this kickoff meeting in September. I put there the link so anyone can go there and check. I am the deputy coordinator, and this institute has basically all the LHC experiments, ALICE, ATLAS, CMS, LHCb, and also ALPHA, that is the antimatter low energy experiment at CERN. We have 100 researchers, and now we have 56 graduate students, but this is growing. We have just now opened a call for new students, so probably we will go to a larger number. And we also have this web page, so everybody can check also our information there. In terms of institutions, we have 19 institutions from several Brazilian regions. Of course, this is more or less concentrated in Rio and São Paulo, but we do have institutes from the Northeast, from Minas Gerais, and also interesting to call your attention, we have, for instance, engineering schools like FEI or ITEM, that is a technological institute also, because we try to really give a good emphasis on instrumentation and technology. So basically, why do we created this? What is the idea of this institute? So that is, of course, to enhance this cross collaboration among researchers from different CERN experiments, mainly, and also different institutions. And we try to address all these areas. So from data analysis, of course, because that's our main purpose, to do science, to create knowledge. So for the experimentalists, data analysis is very important for that. But of course, we need also to construct new detectors. We need to process the data, so we need high performance computing, software development, and of course, we need to think on the future. So training of new generations, this is also very important in this institute, and the scientific dissemination. We have a very clear program for that. Basically, I just put here the 4 pillars from CERN. That is basically what we, of course, use as a mirror. The research, collaboration, technology, innovation, and education and training. So basically what we try to do in this institute is to encourage this participation of in technology development in a coordinated manner. So we try to search for common interests in the different collaborations in the different institutions, and enhance the synergies that we can have among these institutes. So basically the principle that we took from this institute is really to search for technological commonalities among the experiments. So we have people interested in semiconductor sensors in Atlas, in ALICE, in CMS, in LASB. So we try to put all these people together and work together to see. So if you have some infrastructure in São Paulo that can be used for people from Rio and vice versa, and also to exchange experience and everything. So the idea is really to try to emphasize this transversality in terms of technology. And another very big challenge that Brazil has now is the fact that we became an associated member from CERN. So for that to work, that to be a success, we do need to involve the Brazilian industry. The Brazilian industry must be able to provide service, provide material products to CERN. So the idea in our institute is really to try to identify these opportunities, try to connect. Of course, we cannot do that ourselves, just the researchers. We do need the industry involved and so on. But the idea is really to try to emphasize, to facilitate that, to create opportunities for that, for this connection between CERN and the industry, the Brazilian industry. We have, of course, many initiatives, activities in terms of training. I will mention at least one of them that are being organized by each other here. And promote activities in terms of scientific dissemination. We have this, Brazil is also part of the International Particle Physics Outreach Group, IPOG. And then we try to, of course, develop these activities with them. So how does it work? How the institute really is organized? So we have, of course, the coordinator, that is Inácio Beliaga, the deputy coordinator, myself, and we have this management committee that is composed, basically, we invited we put together this committee with the team leaders of almost all the experiments, and mainly from also to emphasize this connection with HENA-5, everybody that is working at CERN and is part of the scientific and technical committee of HENA-5 is also in our management committee. So really to keep this tight. So this is just for your reference later. the people that are in this management committee. You see all the different experiments, different institutions as well. And then we have also, since we have this goal of bringing together different experiments in terms of common interests in instrumentation and technology, we basically organized or created these working groups focusing in instrumentation technology. So we have we have 8 working groups. So one for gaseous detectors, one for semiconductor detectors, one for photonic conversion detectors, scintillators, and so on. One for electronics, computational infrastructure, associated technologies. So things like lasers that might be necessary, different studies, magnets, and so on. Advanced data analysis techniques and scientific dissemination. So we have a working group only for scientific dissemination. And then each of these working groups, of course, has coordinators. So we have 2 coordinators for each one that I put the names here also for your reference later. And these people actually compose what we call executive committee. That is, the idea of this committee is really to keep these people talking, keep these people discussing, so we can really identify not only common interests within a same technology, but also across different technologies. And I'll show you an example that is really happening. So in terms of timeline, this is a 5 years project. Well, I put here 2022, but I think the correct is 2023. That's not completely clear when CNPq start counting, but I would say it's 23 from 28 or more precisely. And of course, because of this timeline, we are pretty much linked to the upgrades of Atlas and CMS, the phase 2 upgrades, and also the phase 2B upgrades for ALICE and LACB that is planned for Run 5. In terms of costs, actually this program is not, I didn't put numbers here, we forgot also to put in the white paper, but this is basically 7 million reais, the funding of this institute. It's not much for this number of people and experiment and so on. But what we try to do, or our main, I would say 2/3 of this funding is devoted to this local infrastructure to support activities of development of technology of instrumentation in the different institutes and in different technological areas. So basically, we are trying to help these institutes to assemble their infrastructure to really do this development of technology. We have in the computing group, of course, we have this also some funds for data processing. Basically, they are creating a model for cloud computing, so people from different institutes can use that infrastructure. We do not have money to pay the maintenance of operation of the experiments, but we do a lot of effort. We put a lot of effort to put pressure in the funding agencies to have a stable and secure payment of this MNO. So we're really trying hard. Every other month we call Galvan or someone from Aragon, from FINEP, to discuss these issues. So we're really putting, actually next week we have a meeting with the Secretary of Minister of Science Technology. So we keep pushing. We have some grants for regular travel for students and researchers to go to conference, mainly for preliminary talks, invited talks. We finance them, and also for students to go to CERN for shifts and so on. We have scholarships. We have only actually for postdoc, and we decide to have short postdoc fellowships to cover a transition. So the person finished PhD, didn't find a postdoc yet, so she has a security backup there. And well, and then of course another thing that we cannot finance, but we are also putting pressure in the funding agencies to have some different kind of scholarships more suitable for this high energy field, where we can really spend, for instance, 2 years at CERN, because that's not common in Brazil. We don't have like something like in São Paulo. At least we have, if you are a postdoc, you can have a fellowship to spend a year abroad, but in the rest of the country, it's very difficult to find something like this. So current status, we had this second workshop just in beginning of July. I put the link there, you can check. And then we have, during this workshop, we had the reports from all the working groups, kept in Portuguese, but, and also we had a report from the different experiments and a long discussion regarding the next steps and so on. Just to give you an idea of what is coming out of this initiative of the institute. So basically, we in this 1 year of working together, we identify a common interest in the electronics for different detectors. So our idea is really to assemble, to put together a project where we can ask for funds and of course, organize ourselves to produce these electronics for the different, gases detected, the RPC from CMS, the semiconductor, in the semiconductor front, we have FPGA boards that we are interested. In the photonic conversion detectors, we have the LHCb interested in electronics for the wire tracker. And of course, the idea is that the electronics group will put together all of this. And also, this is a nice initiative because we can involve the Brazilian industry in this sector. Right? Marco, for instance, has been discussing a lot with some companies in Campinas that can produce these electronics. So I think is a nice bet. Also in the semiconductor sensor, we have interest in the 4 experiments. All the 4 experiments are interested in semiconductor sensors. So we are also trying to put together some projects, some initiative in this part. As I mentioned, in terms of cloud computing, we have already a system working in CBPF. It was put together there. So any member of the INCT can access this.
1 minute.
Sure. Can access this facility. And also in terms of training, we have this first data analysis school being organized by Thiago and Gustavo. That will happen in November.
Going to be general, and it's going to have bridges, to use the data of all the experimental.
There is one person for each experiment presenting in the school. And also in terms of scientific dissemination, we are working, this working group 8 is working in creating a traveling exhibition about high energy physics and mainly the Brazilian participation at CERN. They actually are writing a book, some of them, of course, writing a book about the Brazilian participation at CERN, given also the 70 years of CERN. So many initiatives there as well. So to finalize, expected challenges, of course, we need to work hard to improve this synergy. It's not, as you can imagine, it's not easy, but I think it's going well. Also, another challenge we have is to contribute to the success of the Association of Brazil to CERN, to really bring benefits, so we really can spend this money with our local companies. And also, as I said, we are putting a lot of pressure on funding agents to make them aware of the demands of the Brazilian participation in CERN. That's something that we get a lot of confusion. Many people think that the money that goes to the association somehow go back to the experiments, and that of course not true. This goes to the infrastructure of CERN. So we are grown-ups, we need to contribute to the infrastructure of the lab, and the experiments are something completely different. And we need to explain that to them, and also to highlight the different particularities that we have because of the international character of this initiative, of this work, and the need of specific financial lines to contemplate it. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Very nice. Very important.
So when you show the proposal of asking for funding for students to be at CERN for longer periods, with the advent of Brazil becoming a CERN member, in principle, we should have some offer, an extra offer of funding. Now CERN has this PhD program for funding and also the CERN fellows. What is the role of the INCT, if any, in the distribution or having more negotiating with CERN for more positions?
Yeah, well, that's something that we do not interfere. That's something from the human resource department from CERN. What we try to do that is discussed in the management committee is really to advertise the positions. So really to do some very aggressive advertisement, mainly the technical positions. I think this is very strategic. If we have many Brazil, first of all, this association money goes to pay these people, so good usage of it. And of course, it's very strategic to have Brazilian engineers and technical people inside CERN, because also they can help to drive this expenditure of CERN's money. And oh no, I know this Brazilian company, I think they can provide this product or this service. So I think it's a very important thing to do.
Yes. Thanks for the presentation, very nice. I have actually two questions, and then you start off with Marcelo. The first one is, could you mention some the industries which you consider promising or that have an interesting past experience? And the second one is, so I think that we need other university proposals in Brazil, and I don't know how it is the say large scale structure surveys projects or cosmological side, but from the point of view of astroparticles and neutrino, they have a lot of overlapping issues with your INCT. I would like to know how you see this situation.
Yeah. In terms of industry, the electronics is an example. I think we can. And another example is CERN has an agreement with CNRS that built the Sirius, the light source. And they have a lot of contact with a lot of industries, and we also are discussing, trying to use their knowledge or of these companies or this together.
I was contacted by one of those companies yesterday.
Yeah. So they are really a good channel to reach these companies. Because Sirius, for instance, at least they claim that 80% of everything there was built here in Brazil. And your second question, actually, when we submit this proposal, there were also proposal for astroparticles and one for neutrinos. Unfortunately, they did not they were not selected. But the idea was HENAFI actually organized. The idea was to do everything through HENAFI, so we keep the equation. So HENAFI we identify people to make the proposal for each area, but unfortunately only this one was selected. But I think the idea is to keep, if they have a new call, I think for sure we should have one for astroparticle and one for neutrinos.
I have one quick comment. I know that some other member states, they have an industrial liaison officer
Yes.
to exactly identify, help companies to find their way to CERN. Do you have something like that, or?
Yeah, actually, and Galvão gave the wrong information on yesterday. Last week, it was appointed. It's
right.
Rafael Navarro. Yeah, he's the new industry liaison officer, and for a great coincidence, he lives in Switzerland. He's Brazilian, but he lives in Switzerland, and he has good contacts with people in Brazil, and he's a good friend of Daniela Moraes, that was a high energy physicist. Now she's in industry, and so I think we are moving.
Okay, great.
Yeah, was last week.
Okay, I don't see any hands online. So then let's. Then we have one more talk before there's a coffee break.
There is a coffee. They leave food for us. It's just at the same time.
All right, so good afternoon, everyone. So it's a pleasure to be here. So I'll be discussing the Brazilian report on dark matter. So I'll not have many facts during my slides, so hopefully you pay attention to what I'm gonna say. So before everything, so I want to put everyone in the same page that I'll be focusing on dark matter. Okay, so the Brazilian's efforts towards dark matter. So I'd like to remind you that I have one premise, which is sort of related to the dark matter Brazilian effort towards dark matter, which is to assume that the dark matter is interpreted in terms of elementary particles. Okay, why? Because there is, I could count in my hand how many papers we have in Brazil where they assume dark matter is comprised of primordial black holes. So it's a handful of papers. The majority of them are assumed that the dark matter is comprised of elementary particles. So in doing so, we have three ways to detect dark matter, which is one is through indirect detection, where you have dark matter particles that find each other and self-annihilate, producing certain amount of particles that could be generating cosmic rays or gamma rays. And we have another method, which is known as collider accelerator, where we have in the initial state two standard model particles or fields which interact and then produce dark matter. And that dark matter particle is simply seen as missing energy in your detector. And the third way is known as direct detection, where you have the scattering of a dark matter particle off nuclei, which is I'm represented by the standard model particle there, and then leaves a signal or recoil energy that can be picked up by instruments. So that said, so to me, it's quite clear that dark matter landscape is sort of the truly represents the HECAP agenda, which the dark matter problem actually needs a synergy between high energy physics, cosmology, and astroparticle physics, because that's exactly what the dark matter problem does. So the dark matter community, in my personal view, was born with an international agenda, because we need to be in contact with international large groups, international collaborations. So, and to me, and I've been advocating in the past conferences that I've attended, to me now we have a sort of a fourfold method of searching for dark matter, which is through the detection of gravitational waves. Because many dark matter models, they do induce detectable gravitational wave signal. And I will not have time to discuss this. I will not dwell on the details of that, but that's one thing to keep in mind. So let's just refresh, make sure that everybody remembers. So back in 2019, when I was asked for the first time by Rogério to write the Brazilian report, that's the picture we had. So we had here I have the dark, this thing is not working. So I had the dark matter sector there. We had, this is Brazilian, okay? So we had Brazilian work on dark side, which is basically Ivone Albuquerque at USP. And Ettore Segreto was sort of one foot there. And we had the cosmology frontier was basically that at the moment. And as far as indirect detection goes, we had actually one Brazilian professor at USP, I don't recall his name, at Fermilab, searching for gamma rays, and already Vito de Souza and Ion Viana and Ulysses already discussing things related to CTA. But it was not like this Fermilab was just one person which was not active in Fermilab, was just because there's a collaboration agreement, which even if you're not active for the next 3 years, you still sign the papers and so on. So that's why I did not include Fermilab there. So you had just CTA. And as far as colliders, the thing continues to be the same. We had Atlas LHC, BCMS, and there's a typo there. It should be Highland Nostra LHC. Things we're still discussing the details of Highland Nostra LHC. The white papers from Highland Nostra LHC had not been written at that time. But okay. And as far as neutrinos, we had Dune was ongoing, as BND still ongoing, and Connie was already a reality at that time. And everything in black here, you see that you're going to see it very clearly in the next slide, is that which are experiments, okay? Either future or ongoing experiments. And this thing that I excluded from that list are institutions, Brazilian institutions, which were involved in those collaborations. Back in 2019, they were not, and you see today, there are new Brazilian institutions involved. So what I'm trying to stress here is that back in 2019, that was a Brazilian effort for dark matter. And today, the things changed quite a bit. So we had more experiments, which are truly dark matter dedicated, such as Oscura, which is projected, and we have SWGO. The CTA has become a reality. And SWGO, according to Ulysses, we're still see what's gonna happen in the near future. And FCC also has become more reality. In 2019, we had only CBPF participating on FCC, and we had two papers work on axon-like particles, which were not dark matter oriented, were just axons, like axons, QCD axons, like. But now we also joined FCC there in Natal, and we have written already like 6 papers on. I'm a theorist, so we have written about 6 papers on dark matter searches in the context of FCC, and we have assigned MOU with FCC, etc. And in the context of the neutrino physics, you see the institutions here. So I have put all the institutions, Brazilian institutions involved in each of those experimental endeavors. The only thing that I see that's more critical here is Oscura and dark side, which rely basically on one institution and one group. So if that group leaves, the Brazilian participation of the detector goes away immediately. And so the collider physics to me is the more well-established dark matter search endeavor in Brazil, because there are many groups, many people, and the others, they rely on a handful of people. So fortunately, now we see a more stronger development towards indirect detection. Ulysses, Vito de Souza have been playing a leading role in this aspect and informing people and promoting workshops and events. So this has been quite important in the context of dark matter. It is also important to say that regarding the indirect dark matter detection, we Brazilians, we are some of the people who are working on the dark CTA projections for dark matter. So we are not just part of CTA among thousands of people. We are some of the people behind the dark matter paper. So we are playing a leading role in that regard. So to me, as far as I know, some people might be angry at me, but I'm here to report, not to be friendly. So as far as Collider goes, as far as I know, to the best of my knowledge, there is no Brazilian leading dark matter searches at LASF4RI, playing the leading role in dark matter. So they participate, but they are not the driving force of dark matter searches. As far as I know, you can tell me if I'm wrong. If we are here for a debate, okay? So it does not undermine the role. That's saying you're not really the leading role. And the thing that we are trying to change, I knew that's not in the report. So we are trying to enter the dark matter forum group at the LASF4RI. We have ongoing discussion with Benjamin Fox, which is the current of the leader, and Bertrand Lafog, who is doing Natal now for a month. So we are trying to discuss with them in our way so we can be part of the process of selecting the benchmark model at the LASF4RI, and then really play a leading role in dark matter searches at CERN. Okay, so and regarding the cosmology, I will discuss it towards the end of my talk. So here, you have an idea. So I'm quite excited. I was quite excited to produce this plot because let me first say that back in 2019, so I did not do this plot back in 2019, so I did it now, and just to compare. So in 2019, we had like around 11 experiments, ongoing experiments with Brazilian involvement. And today we have about 8 or so, not much. Future experiments, we had about 3, and now we have way more. What does it mean? It means that the Brazilian community is really involved in the future of astroparticle physics. So to me, I get goosebumps. So that's it's really, really important because you see that we are going the right direction. And also did the exercise to count the number of either theses or papers published or non-published using Google Scholar. So that was a hell of a work that, so back from 2011 down to now, counting how many theses and works published or non-published papers that came out with the title either dark matter, the full title. Dark matter is not dark or something, whatever. Because I learned that in biology, there is something called dark molecule or something. So the dark matter or dark sector, those two words that you there.
So dark energy is not included.
It's not included.
But this is worldwide, not just Brazilian.
Just Brazilian.
Just Brazilian.
Just Brazilian. So and also included the Brazil having doesn't, for instance, certain works are included there because there is a Brazilian affiliation involved. So it must have a Brazilian affiliation involved in that. Yeah. So back in 2011, we had around 500. And up to 2018, we had a very large, sharp increase from here. So we're reaching 1,500. We started stabilizing now. And obviously, we have some presidential era that did not allow us to increase much. And today, so that was in the beginning, 5th of July. That's when the last day I counted. So we had already half of the year, 1,000 papers, plus theses, blah, 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 published until now. So I'm pretty sure that we're gonna beat that number by the end of the year. So again, we are gonna keep increasing again. And that shows that not only the astroparticle physics community, a fraction of this, which works with dark matter, is also being more active than it used to be in the past. That really shows that we are growing. And in my point of view, the flagship experiments as far as dark matter, remember my premises? My premise is that dark matter is a particle, which is the sort of the main interpretation in the Brazilian community. The flagship experiments are CTA, and which is a reality now, SWGO, you're gonna see in the future, which has projections, which I'm showing these plots, but you don't have to remember them. The only thing you have to remember is that those curves, which represent upper limits on the annihilation cross-section, dark matter pair, technically increased antimatter particles, are projected to be the best limits worldwide for dark matter signals in the sky. The best. So CTA has the potential, or either CTA or SW has the potential to discover a signal of dark matter. It's not just to be competitive. The same goes for dark side. Dark side, it goes in the direct detection front, where you search for scattering of dark matter particle of nuclei or of electrons, and dark side provides the best limits for some sub-GeV dark matter masses. But to me, I think dark side needs to somehow expand beyond USP. And there is someone who is in the Dune workshop that's a member of dark side. And I point that out to him because that shouldn't be the case. And Connie to me is also interesting. It's not a dark matter detector. What it does is just measure, is like a seventh experiment. So it searches for nuclear recoils of neutrinos, for instance. And then since you have neutrino interacting with a nucleus, the mediator between the neutrino and the nucleus can be a vector boson. That vector boson could be as well a new particle beyond the sun model. So they're not searching for dark matter, but they're searching for new particles. But in the community, they in some way try to fold in as dark matter, but it's not really truly a dark matter experiment, but it's within the realm of dark sector. And they place some limits, which are the best for some models, which is called dark photon model. There you see when they do try to search for some dark mediators. So this is Connie, which is this blue one. You can see that's it's not the best, but it's competitive with other direct detection experiments, which are represented by these red and these greenish curves. But Connie, okay, it has become interesting. And I also should point out that I have talked to members of those collaborations before writing the report, but I wanted to have their personal feedback. Sometimes it's not what is written in the paper, it's just like text and numbers, but sometimes having the perspective of the future of the experiments is very important to know what's going on in the future. And I do know that, so for instance, I realized that Connie started off as basically as an American and US collaboration, but has been slightly changed over time to a more Brazilian collaboration. And today, about 70% of the members of CONI are Brazilians, which is to me is remarkable. And we have Oscura. So basically 95% of the members of CONI are, members of CONI are members of Oscura. And Oscura is projected to be the best direct detection experiments for light dark matter masses, and using a 10-30 kilograms K per CCD. And to me, this is, if it becomes if they deliver what they promise, to me it would be, they're planning to build it in Brazil, part of the detectors, and to me it would be like a milestone in Brazilian dark matter physics. So since my time is up, I'll just show some LHC bounds, and just to finish, also my colleagues like Rogério won't be mad at me. So yes, we do have some cosmology and astrophysical frontiers in neutrino physics. Even the report had not discussed the details of those searches because I assumed they would be covered by other people. So it was not my role to do that. So, and just to conclude, In 2011, for those who don't know, we had the very first session dedicated to dark matter in the spring meeting, which is the national meeting promoted by the Brazilian Physics Society, 2011. We had never had a dark matter session in our national meeting, never, up to 2011. In 2012, we had astroparticle physics was finally recognized as an area by the Brazilian Physics Society, 2022, so 2 years ago. And since 2018, we have been organizing, this is just the workshops organized either at ICTP-SAIFR or the IIP in Natal, but I know this number is way larger because I know Lisa is very productive and very active, and many other researchers are very active, such as Vitor de Souza and Martin Markler. They've been promoting events for the past 10 years or so, but just these two institutes alone, ICTP-SAIFR and IIP in Natal, have organized 12 international either workshops or schools for the past 8 years. So we are really trying to push the community and forming students. And as I said, we are trying to join the dark matter working group at CERN. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you for the very nice presentation. We are running a little bit late, but let's go to Claudio Di Fonler.
Yeah, well, it was a very nice talk.
Hi, Claudio.
I'm sure the experimentalists will forgive you if you solve the problem. But I wanted to ask you, when you show the graph of the dark matter, direct dark matter, and do you know where the neutrino floor is in that picture?
You mean where? You mean the direct detection? This
Yeah,
one? Sorry, this one?
No, it was not that. Next one. Let's see.
The next one? Yeah, this one?
Further, where you had the Oscura also mentioned.
Yeah, the Oscura, okay, the next one. Yeah, this one.
Here, yes. So do you know where the neutrino floor is here?
No, we don't know.
I don't know.
So we're around for 10 MeV or so, we sort of have an idea, but below that, no, that's up to discussion.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions? So what is the key milestone at this moment?
Where is that?
In the brown area.
Yeah, so it's just some favorite models where they have some dark matter interacting with electrons.
Well, maybe we should see if there's some dark liquid left. Right? So let's take. So we have 15 minutes break.
Yeah.
Be back here at 4:30.